Hi, my name is Shelley, and today I want to share a technique for you that I hope will help you with anxiety. If you um, suffer from anxiety, I can definitely relate. It is something that I have experienced my entire life. I didn't even know what it was for my early years. I just knew I didn't have the same reaction as other kids that I knew about things that made me worry and made me nervous. And as I became an adult and had a family, and my daughter was clinically diagnosed with anxiety, and she had anxiety to the point of very difficult to function in a lot of scenarios in her life. So I had to learn a lot about anxiety. I had to learn how to do a lot of coping with it. I had to learn how to overcome it in a lot of ways. And so I've had some really good experiences with uh, managing it and teaching other people how to do it. And so I want to share that knowledge with you. First of all, what is the difference between anxiety and just regular nervousness? So everyone feels nervous at times. We all have situations where we feel nervous. For instance, we may have to give a speech, and so we feel pretty nervous before we get on stage, and that's normal. We may feel nervous because it's the first day of school, and that's normal. The average person can go into school, they sit down, they feel the butterflies in the stomach, and as they sit there, they kind of look around the room and they see, oh, okay, I know some of these people in here, and then the teacher begins, and so as the teacher begins to go over what to expect in the year, the nervousness processes and goes away because, we calm down, and then we realize, okay, that wasn't a big deal. But when you have anxiety, it's a totally different scenario for you. You go in, you have the nervous knots in the stomach, and you sit down and you look around and you see the worst case scenario. No matter what it is, you will find the worst case scenario, and not only find it, but you will expand on it until it creates this enormous problem, and it begins creating a physical reaction within the body. So we can sit down, we can see someone's familiar. We might see 5 people we know that we really like, but we'll see one that maybe we've had a conflict with, and our focus goes to the one person that we've had a conflict with. And so we'll start to hyper focus on that. And then it will be like, what if I get into a fight with them again? And we jump to these crazy conclusions that most likely are never going to come true, but our brain cannot help it. It just goes to those scenarios. When the teacher gives the expectations for the year, we will jump to the conclusion of, oh my gosh, this is too hard. I can't do this. What if I flunk the class? What if I can't get into college? We go to these outlandish and creative, very creative scenarios, but the likelihood of them happening are very small. But because we do this, we begin to have a physical reaction in the body. So that nervous stomach that is normal for people to feel, for us, it begins to grow and expand. It starts in the gut, and it goes up and it goes to the lungs, and then it starts to affect our lungs, and we start to have shallow breathing. And then we go to the heart. The heart begins to speed up. It starts to race, and then it goes to the brain. And then that's when all of those crazy conclusions start to occur, and we get so caught up in them that our mind just races. And then we have a difficult time calming down. And so we may get so worked up that because the heart's racing, and we may start to have palpitations, we may have them so severely that we think we're having a heart attack. I have had clients that have went to the emergency room thinking they were having a heart attack when it was simply anxiety. We may have trouble breathing because we get so worked up, and then we start having an asthma attack if we have asthma, or we just feel like there's an elephant on our chest and we cannot breathe because our body is going to this conclusion and it can't stop itself. Our stomach, we may have all kinds of digestive issues because we get so worked up that we can't calm that stomach down. So the best thing for you to do is start to recognize when that starts to happen. It always starts in the gut. So when you start to feel the nervousness is when you want to start to take action. You want to be proactive. You want to do things to prevent that anxiety from growing and rising up in the body. So I want you to think about your shoulders as a block. This is a brick wall, and you are not going up in my mind. Anxiety, you're staying below my shoulders. So once we begin to feel that nervousness in the stomach is when I want you to start to take action. And I'm going to give you an easy thing to remember on how to take action. So I want you to think about anxiety as its own entity, because in a way it is. We're all energy. I'm made of energy. You're made of energy. The things around us are made of energy. And anxiety is also an energy. It is a compilation of a bunch of emotions that we felt in the past that caused us to kick into survival mode. And these emotions at the time probably served their purpose, but for some reason we did not process them properly and they became stuck in the subconscious mind. So when we're in survival mode, we have associated survival mode with just being nervous. Survival mode is fight or flight. We are fighting for our life or we're running for our life. So when we feel these emotions, we kick into that survival mode. And in everyday scenarios, we're provided with that fight or flight mode to preserve our life. So if we're walking and we see a rabid dog, we're either going to pick up a stick and fight this dog off, we're fighting for our life so we don't get attacked, or we're going to run away. And in that moment, our body is flooded with adrenaline and it goes to the stomach. We start to kick into survival mode. It travels through the body, it rushes through, and the brain is making us do whatever it perceives that we need to do to survive. But when you have anxiety, you have associated that survival mode and those emotions with just being nervous, with normal worry and nervousness. So another person gets a little bit nervous over, you kick into survival mode, and then it floods the body with adrenaline. It has the same reaction as you fighting for your life. And so we have to learn to listen to the body, honor what the body is saying, and understand that we need to honor what our body's saying and start to do things to calm it down at that moment. So I want you to think about anxiety as a bratty child that is wanting attention. And it may sound silly, but if you think about a child that's throwing a tantrum, what's the best way to handle it? If the child is in the store and wants a toy, if you give in and give it the toy, what happens? It's okay for that moment, but then it throws a bigger fit the next time. If you ignore the child, then it begins to learn that, okay, I'm not going to get this reaction out of mom, so I'm not going to do this anymore. It may take a few times, But eventually that child's going to quit throwing the fit because they don't get the attention that they want. And your anxiety is the exact same principle as that child throwing a fit. Anxiety is trying to come to the forefront because your body is trying to tell you there is trauma within the subconscious mind that needs to be healed. And eventually we can figure out what that is. But for now, we're just going to try to control that anxiety so that you can function in your life. So think of anxiety as this brat that's wanting attention. So the acronym for Brat, first letter is B. So the first thing we're going to do when we feel that stomach begin to knot and those butterflies, we're going to change our breathing. We're going to try to calm that nervous system down rather than letting that adrenaline rush up to our head. When we first begin to feel that, we're going to start to breathe. We're going to breathe in deeply and exhale deeply 10 times. So we're going to take in a breath as deep as we can. We're going to hold it for 3 seconds. And when we breathe out, we're going to push that breath out with the diaphragm. If you are a singer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You push out with the stomach versus the lungs. So we're pushing that breath out. And as you push the breath out, I want you to imagine that anxiety being pushed out of the body. So that adrenaline's being pushed out. Push it out. Do this 10 times. If we can do this 10 times, we're starting to calm that nervous system down. So we're keeping that nervous stomach contained in the stomach. We're keeping it down there and we're not letting it rise up in the body. The next thing I want you to do is we're going to redirect our energy. So instead of starting that hyper focus on whatever scenario, I want you to think of something calming and positive you can say to yourself. So if it's a problem at work, I want you to say something like, all problems are solvable. I'm okay. I can handle this. You know, we're going to just talk ourselves down from having that hyper focus. So we're redirecting that energy to something that is positive for us. And it can be any phrase that works for you. Whatever is going to work for you, that's what I want you to use. The next thing I want you to assess. I want you to assess what created this reaction in me. After we start to calm down, I want you to think about, okay, what triggered my anxiety? What thing in the past is trying to come out that is making me feel anxious? So what experience do I have from the past that is making me feel this anxious feeling now? Because there's always something that sets it off. There's always a little button that's been pushed that makes that come forward. And again, what I'm saying is the subconscious mind is trying to communicate with you, okay, there's some healing. This needs to come out. There's some healing that needs to happen here. And this is reminding me of it. So when we're reminded of it, all those emotions from the past are coming forward in that moment. Maybe you don't know. Oftentimes, if you ask yourself, okay, what is this that's trying to come forward? Something will pop in your mind. No matter what it is, no matter how weird it sounds, no matter how silly it sounds, write it down. You know, write it on paper, put it in your phone on a note or something. We're not going to dig into that right now, but we're going to recognize, okay, there's this thing here that I need to deal with. Maybe you don't know what it is. In that case, I want you to ask for help. Ask for assistance. Ask, you know, if you pray, ask God to help you. God, please show me what is creating this anxiety for me. What in the past do I need to heal to get rid of this anxiety? Ask angels to help you. Ask your spirit. The answer is within your subconscious mind, and your spirit will help guide you to whatever it is that you need to get rid of. Ask your higher self. Whatever feels comfortable to you, ask for help. And you may not know in that moment or even that day, but within a day or two, generally, everyone I've worked with, they've come back to me and said, that was the weirdest thing. It was this toy from when I was a kid. Well, then we dig into it and we can find out why this was relevant to them. But right now, we just want to know, we want a clue as to why we're feeling anxious. So just ask for help, ask for guidance, and you'll receive the answer. You have the answer, you just don't know how to get it right now. The last thing I want you to do is take some time. So take a few minutes to back away from whatever situation you're in that's creating the anxiety. People will say to me, I can't just take a break at work, but if someone texted you and they said, this is an emergency, you need to contact me ASAP, what would you do? You're not going to wait till the next day to call that person. You're going to be like, what's the emergency? In this moment, your body is telling you this is an emergency. My stomach's starting to hurt because I'm getting ready to have a panic attack. So I'm giving you a warning. You better redirect this energy or you're going to be in panic mode. But what do? We ignore it. We try to tough it out. We don't be a baby. The things I learned as a kid, don't be a baby. But you're not being a baby. Your body's trying to communicate with you. Okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Something's wrong here. You need to give this attention right now. We're giving our body attention, but we're not wanting to give the bratty anxiety attention. So think of anxiety as a brat that is not benefiting you. And think of the word brat because I want you to use that for an acronym for breathing. So breathing 10 times in and out, pushing the anxiety out. Redirect, so we're redirecting the energy into something that is more positive and that we can calm ourselves down with. We want to assess. We want to assess what has created this moment for me where I'm feeling anxious. And then T, we want to take time. We just want to take a few minutes to kind of calm ourselves down because we're trying to prevent that stomach energy from rising up above the shoulder and getting into our head. Once it's in the head, it's going to take over the whole body. It's going to cause the heart palpitations and the trouble with breathing and whatever else you experience when you have anxiety. Everyone's different and they have their own issues with it. But remember, anxiety is a brat, and you need to not give the energy to the brat and not give the energy to that thing that's trying to get your attention. We want to find out the deeper meaning behind the anxiety and not let anxiety take over for us. So I know that's a lot of information. I hope that was helpful to you. I will do other videos about anxiety because I have a lot of information to share about it. And I want you to understand that there is hope for this. You can overcome it. You can learn to manage it. It does not have to be something that is with you for life and that you always have to have control over you. You have the control. You just don't know how to manage it yet. And so that's what I'm here for, to help you learn that. Thanks for watching.